Rebecca from the Glitch Stitchery. I'm here today with a dye video. I've been trying to do these a little bit more often just because they're a little easier for me to shoot than constantly spinning or weaving or everything else that I do. So I saw this on another YouTuber's channel and I thought it was interesting. So it's the Wilton Color Right Concentrated Food Coloring System. So there's 8 colors and they have built-in droppers. So supposedly you get accurate amounts each drop. I was like, okay, I'll try it out. So I have 8 mini skeins soaking. They're 50 yards each of the merino tencel that I bought from EcoView Fiber Mill. So what I'm gonna do is I have glass jars. I'm gonna put in 5 drops, 1 color, and probably about a tablespoon of vinegar, either white vinegar or citric acid, I haven't decided. And I'm going to be heating up water in my electric kettle, and we're just going to dye them that way with the water from the kettle and right in the jars, because I want to see just how well they dye in a less, I don't know what the word would be. Let's say for a moment that you live somewhere where you can't really use a stove. Can you dye yarn? I want to find that out. I mean, I know the answer is yes if you use sunlight, but it's winter. I'm not going to use sunlight. But also I want to see just in more controlled conditions how well the dye takes, how fast it takes. I'm hoping for tonal variation, which is why I'm doing them with hot water instead of cool setting them overnight and seeing how they absorb that way. I want variation. I want to see the extremes. So I'm going to get those set up and let's get started. So we dyed the mini skeins, and the only thing left to dye is this one 400-yard skein that I just finished skeining up. So this is the same merino tencel as the mini skeins. It's a light fingering weight. Now I did notice that when I was washing the mini skeins that some of the colors did not fully absorb. Now they're not 100% saturated, so I know it's partially just that the dye couldn't get to them, but it might also be that some of the colors are more saturated than others in terms of how much dye is in the dye itself. So like the pink, all of it absorbed, the yellow, all of it absorbed, the rest of the colors, not quite all of it. And actually with the black, there was this weirdness where the color that was left over was kind of like a teal. Anyway, for this skein, I am not going to use the black or the brown, but we're going to use the rest of the colors, and we're going to do a countertop kettle tonal space dye. So I'm going to get set up. You can hear the water boiling in the background for me to pour over this, and let's get started. as dye tests go, that was actually pretty helpful, for me anyway. So I have all these little mini skeins, and it was interesting to see how the dye took. These are on a merino tencel base, so they're not pure wool, so they're not going to absorb as much dye as pure merino would have, but it does give them a really nice shine, so that's fun. As for the dyes themselves, I would say that the amount of drops I did, which I attempted 5, was too much for the mini skeins, with the exceptions being yellow and pink. Yellow and pink completely absorbed all the dye I gave them, and I didn't have anything wash off afterwards, which seems to indicate that those two colors have a less saturated dye in general. And I mean, that's kind of expected, so that wasn't really a big surprise. I do like how bright these two are. And even with them absorbing the dye, you still get some variegated effects. So part of the yellow is more vibrant than the rest of it. Some of the pink has parts where the dye touched it directly before it absorbed, like dispersed into the water. And that's a darker shade of pink. So that's interesting. So yeah, that's about it for these two. As for red and crimson and orange, all 3 of these did have dye left in the jars, but not a huge amount, so it was okay. I really like the variegation in the red specifically. Actually, let me think. Is it this one red and this one crimson, or this one red and this one crimson? Crap. Okay, I can't tell. But if you look back in the previous clip, the one that is called red is with the yellow and the blue, while the one that's called crimson is off towards the pink. So that would, I know that part's right, but now that they're in my hand and they're all mixed up, I can't remember. I like this one though. This one has more of an orange tint. So I think together these 3 colors would work really well. And you can definitely see a lot of variegation in these 3. So that was good to know. Now these 3, the brown, black, and blue, had the most dye left in the jars. So when I dumped them out, it was just brown dye left of the brown dye with the, and I mean that makes sense. It didn't break down into multiple components. Not really. And you can see some really nice variation in here. I love this dark brown shade. As for the black, that one was interesting. The color left in the jar looked teal. So I don't know if the blue components completely separated out and this is what's left after, or if it just had a lot of blue in it and not all of it set. So I'm gonna have to experiment with this color more. It makes me wonder if I use the black and the pink in a variegated way together, am I gonna end up with purple? Like a weird purple? I don't know. I need to find out. We're gonna try that next. Not today, but soon. Finally, the blue. The only actual cool tone in the entire set. I mean, the black is pretty cool, especially since it has so much teal in it. Sorry, my watch won't shut up. Alright. But this is the only actual cool tone. There's no greens, because presumably they want you to mix the yellow and blue, even though the recipe for green from the yellow and blue is very yellow heavy, which means I would run out of yellow really fast. There's no purple. It's just the blue. I really feel like there should have been one more either shade of blue or a green or purple in the set, maybe instead of one of the reds, because there's 2 reds and an orange. I'm not sure why they give you orange, which is much easier to mix, but don't give you green. Maybe with frosting it works different, I don't know. But it is a really nice blue. Like, I like this blue quite a bit, and I can definitely see myself working with that one. Now, as for the space dyed in a jar skein, I'm very confused. So I did 1 drop each of red, crimson, orange, pink, and yellow. and 2 drops of blue at the very top. And the skein is mostly green. There was not enough yellow in there to make this much green. There was some red left in the bottom of the jar that washed out. It seemed to like not mix into the water perhaps and just kind of stick to the wool. So when I washed it, the red came off. There is some red in here, and I really like this portion. This is really pretty. But yeah, I'm not really sure how it ended up being this green, unless maybe the orange also combined with the blue to make green. That's the only thing I can think of, because the yellow is not a strong color at all, and I don't see how it lasted this long to make it this green. If anything, it should have been more blue if it was going to do this. And frankly, I'm surprised it did this at all, because every other die set I've tried, the blue has been less strong than the red, so the red overwhelms everything. This one is the opposite, and that definitely surprised me. But that's okay. If I combine this set with the other food coloring sets, then I'll have a wider range of colors to work with, and that is always a good thing. So, do I recommend trying these out? I do. Just keep in mind that you're going to have no clue what you're going to come out with, because they defied expectations a bit. So, I am going to try these again very soon, and we're going to see what happens when I use the pink with the black. And I want to do a skein where I do the 2 reds, the orange, and the brown together, because I think that would be fun. I do want to see how difficult it is to make an actual shade of purple, so I might play around with that. I am concerned about how strong the blue is in comparison to the reds, so I want to try it with the crimson, with the red, and with the pink, and see which one gives me the best purple. And I mean, I guess the pink and black would be part of that video as well, just because I have a feeling I'm going to get some purple on the edges when I do that skein. So, you have that to look forward to. I'm not going to tell you exactly when it's coming out, because I don't know yet. Depends. But you'll see that soon. And I'm going to get going and maybe use these for something. I don't know. But I hope to see you again soon.